So from the Sunshine State in Queensland, we're heading back west across to Western Australia, which currently is experiencing a bit of a lockdown, but Zoom has come across well for us, and Andrew Munckton is the Managing Director of Kin Mining. They have got a significant resource over there in WA. Without further ado, Andrew Munckton, the Managing Director of Kin Mining, over to you.
Thanks, Kerry. Pleasure to be with you. I'll jump straight into the Kin story. We're building a significant resource inventory at our Cardinia project, northeast of Leonora. We're located at the Cardinia project, about 35 k's from Leonora. We've got a 400 square k's of land package there, and we have some outlying projects to the northeast and southwest of Cardinia. So we have a joint venture near the Gwalia project with a couple of good companies in our neighbourhood. But the main focus of the company is exploring this Cardinia project, where we've had some significant success in this last 12 months on the back of about 60,000 metres of drilling at Cardinia. We're in the period at the moment consolidating all the work, and we've also completed a major survey, a major gravity survey, to ensure that we have a deep understanding of what the geology is telling us here. I'm going to hit the highlights in this presentation, just in the course of trying to get the story across as succinctly as I possibly can. From a corporate point of view, we're about $100 million company. We have a good blend of institutional and high net worth and retail investors. You can see the response of the market over this last 12 months, not only to a strong share price, not only to a strong gold price over the last 12 months, but also to the exploration story and the exploration results that we've been able to deliver over the phase 3 program that we completed in December. So it's been a very strong 2020 for Kin, and I'm looking forward to a very strong 2021 on the back of the 30,000 metres of additional drilling that we've got planned in the first half. The couple of pictures that I'll show you, it's good to appreciate scale here. So this is a window into the Cardinia project itself. The magnetics image and the scale there, it's about 10 kilometres north-south by about 6 kilometres east-west. There are at least a dozen mineralised positions here, and there's about 600,000 ounces of gold defined by the drilling that you see on the screen. And we did a 3-phase program over last year, not only to discover new projects, which we did at Cardinia Hill and at Hobby and at East Lynn, but also to advance some of the already known about projects, Bruno Lewis, Helens East, Comedy King, Black Chief, etc., etc. So the whole area contains multiple mineralised positions, and that's indicative to us of a very large mineralised system, which is likely to hold multi-million ounce deposits in its own right, and we're in the process of exploring for those currently. The eastern side of that slide is where we did most of the work during 2020. So this coming year, 2021, we're going to be following that up with more work on that eastern side, but we also have another early stage project called Eagle on the western side that we think holds great promise. So it's been a exciting 2020, but I believe that there's a lot more to come in 2021. We're going to window in on a couple of the discoveries just to give investors a flavour for what some of these discoveries look like. This is a project, Cardinia Hill. We made the discovery hole in February last year, 9 metres at 3, and followed that up with 76 RC holes and a number of diamond holes as well. Intersections range from 15 metres to 21 metres at between 2 grams and 6 grams generally. And it's a consistent style of mineralisation, sits on this Cardinia Hill fault in between the porphyry intrusions that probably drive the mineralisation there. Interestingly, this project has, this fault continues further north, 10 metres at 1.2 and 14 metres at a gram, up to 500 metres north. So we have defined the mineralisation over about 600 metres now, and we're looking to extend that in excess of 1 kilometre over this March quarter and perhaps the June quarter as well, if we find some interesting things to follow up.
Andrew, does that tell you that some of the RC holes that you've, and the diamond holes that you've drilled, is that telling you that this is a larger system? I mean, were there any surprises in some of that drilling?
Yeah, we were surprised at the initial, the grade of the mineralisation particularly, and the consistency that we saw when we drilled it along strike. So that was a bit of a pleasant surprise for us. But you know, we are used to drilling these kinds of mineralised systems. My expectation is that they have lots of depth extension. Our deepest hole here is only down to about 125 vertical. And so we're looking to extend that to 200 vertical over this year. And while 500 or 600 metres is a normal strike length for one of these kind of deposits, one that's 1 kilometre or a bit more longer, will hold a lot more mineralisation in it. A second type of mineralisation that we have here, Bruno Lewis, it's been a deposit that's been known about for quite a while now. The resource is up to 311,000 ounces there, 10 million tonnes at just over a gram. There's lots of mineralisation in the near surface environment, so the vast majority of the holes here are only down to about 50 metres. And our most recent drilling has been trying to intersect that near surface mineralisation deeper down. And we've had some success with that. Recent results, you know, between 10 metres and 16 metres are between 4 grams and about 10 grams in those kind of holes. So really pleased with the intersections that we've had there in this last 2 or 3 months. And one of the things that we need to do here is to extend that at depth over this next 6 months or so to demonstrate that this plus 4 gram material has some real depth extension to it.
Yeah, because I think, Andrew, if you're just looking at the, because it is quite, all you've done is drill very near surface. Do you think that it could potentially be a sniff of something much larger below?
Yes, we've got a couple of holes much deeper here, you know, down at, again, 125 to 150 metres. The best of those was 5 or 6 metres at about 17 grams. So there is some very high grade material here, but very limited drilling so far, Kerry. So it's a matter of just following those things up. And in reality, we've had so many targets to chase up in this last 12 or 18 months that it's a matter of just getting around to doing them in a systematic and logical fashion. So this Bruno Lewis one is one that we did late last year. We've had some decent success there, and we'll follow that up with some more deeper drilling over this next 6 months or so. I want to talk about this one, this Helens East project a little bit. This is a project that has been drilled out modestly over the last 2 years. It has some quite deep drilling in it that's very good grade. There's this sort of 15.8 metres at 3.77 on the screen there at the Helens deposit is from 266 below surface. So some high grade material, certainly some very high grade, some of the best grade material that we have for the whole of Cardinia in this particular area. But one of the things we've done, and we only completed it in December, was a gravity survey to try and map the intrusions that we think are fundamental to the mineralisation here. So this picture that you see and the dark blue zones are all much lighter rock, which are these felsic intrusions. And you can see the pattern of high-grade mineralisation that surrounds these felsic intrusions. So, and many of them haven't been tested by drilling previously. So there's a whole raft of projects or a whole raft of targets for us to follow up associated with this gravity survey. Now, this is brand new information. First time Kin has ever used gravity. Some of the much larger gold companies, you know, the Saracens and the Northern Stars and the Goldfields, et cetera, all use gravity. So this is the first time Kin's done any of this, but it's really given our geological team a great insight into what the controls on mineralisation here is. And I think it's going to be key to us discovering these higher grade, much larger types of deposits that I believe exist at this Cardinia project. Same slide we have, and I know this is a very busy slide, but you can see the overlap of all the indicators that we use for targeting the project or targeting the mineralisation. The pink blobs here are the buried intrusions, the yellow polygons are the soil geochemistry, and all the coloured dots are all the high-grade drill holes. So you can see that there's a pretty consistent pattern of high-grade drill intersections around these faults that link all these buried intrusions together. So I'm very excited about extending this model that we only have a small footprint of so far into some of the other areas that we have large amounts of mineralisation in, but we haven't really been able to put the model together for how that mineralisation was formed. So I think this gravity is really going to turn on its head the interpretation of what we're finding here at Cardinia.
You've got their targets 1 through 7. Are you? Can you just explain? Are you drilling those out in the near term?
Yes, so they're all targeted for the June half 2021. We have Cardinia Hill and Helens in there in amongst those, but there are, as you mentioned, 7 additional targets for us to go and chase up, which are just strike extensions and new soil geochemistry that indicates to us that there's some buried mineralisation there. So really looking forward to testing all those targets over this first half of the year. New projects, and this was some generation work that we did in the December quarter just passed. So this is another project called Eagle. It's out to the west of Cardinia, not the east, like we've been focusing on. A couple of big soil geochemical anomalies, both 3 kilometres by in excess of 1 kilometre. There's some old historical drilling there, which demonstrates what the mineralisation style is, you know, 11 at 4 and 3 at 27 and 3 at 4.5 spread around, but only very limited drilling on that. And we'll do a comprehensive assessment of Eagle over this next 3 or 4 months to generate more RC and diamond drilling targets that we think this higher grade western side will have. Again, I'm going to probably follow this up with a gravity survey because we think the same components to the controls of mineralisation will be present here as they are on the eastern side, and as I believe they'll be under Bruno Lewis as well. So you know, it's really starting to come together as a pretty sizable project, and Eagle is one of the projects that we'll follow up in this next 6 months or so. So from our point of view, we've been looking for the analogy to Cardinia associated with this major fault, the Keith Kilkenny fault, which goes across the southwest corner of our tenement block. We think the closest analogy is a project called Karasu Dam, which is owned by Saracen, now Northern Star, and Saracen and Northern Star are Australia's largest gold producer. Karasu sits on this same Keith Kilkenny fault. It has the same north-south fault system that we see at Cardinia. It has the same intrusions that we see at Cardinia and that we've just mapped with our gravity survey. And we have this same multi-element alteration and mineralisation system which is rich in silver and arsenic and bismuth and copper, etc. So we have that same suite as they have. Now, to give you an understanding of why we are so excited about this Karasu's 3 million ounces. It's operated for 20 years. This year it'll do somewhere between 200 and 220,000 ounces. So it's a major gold producer in its own right, and we believe that Cardinia is a direct analogy for it. It's essentially on the same mineralised structure, so we're hopeful that we can emulate Saracen at Karasu Dam.
Oh, wouldn't that be good? And how far away, like where Karasu is that very far away from Cardinia? I mean, I know it's along the same fault line, but
it's about 100 kilometres southeast. But the way that these mineralised systems work is that you get a regular spacing of these kinds of large deposits. They don't all occur right next to each other. They occur at quite a substantial spacing, like 100 kilometres along these major faults that are 400, 500, 600 kilometres long. Takeaways for investors. We're a reasonably advanced project now, 1.15 million ounces. We've made a number of new discoveries in this last 18 months, all within 5 k's of the processing plant site that's been selected. We're generating new targets this year that will be followed up, and this gravity survey has really opened our eyes to what the intimate controls on that mineralisation will be. So I expect our targeting will be better than it was last year for this coming year. But we're really focused on making these major plus million ounce discoveries in this Cardinia area, which I have no doubt there are at least one and potentially more than one of these kind of deposits in there. You just don't get these very extensive footprints of mineralisation if there aren't multiple millions of ounces of gold that are driving that footprint. So they're quite rare things, and we have one of them. And the other item that I think is worthwhile mentioning, that this whole Leonora region is pretty hot exploration ground and corporate activity ground. You've seen a couple of deals recently, Dacian at Mount Morgans, Sons of Gwalia, Thunderbox, and Red 5 at Darlow and at King of the Hills. So there's a lot of action in this little part of the world, and Kin's sitting there with 400 square k's of ground and in excess of 1 million ounces of resources, and there's not many who have that kind of inventory in this part of the world.
And some of the larger producers that we've mentioned a couple of them before, would they be looking at you? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth or ask you an awkward question, but do you think some of these producers might be looking at what you're doing? You do the hard work, and they might come on and say, either let's do a joint venture or let's do something together.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. Again, I can't speak for the other players in the region. Our aim is to be on the front foot here and have a good and growing resource base, and we'd expect that the other players in the region will recognise that and be interested to come and have a chat with us. Whether that materialises into anything, Kerry, I guess is in the lap of the gods at the moment, not necessarily totally in Kin's control, but we're certainly putting our best foot forward in terms of growing the resource base to give us that optionality if that's the way that we want to go.
We've only got a minute left, but I just wanted to ask you a very quick question, which is you've got a lot of work on. You might have to do a capital raising in the future because there is a lot here. What's your focus in the first half of 2021?
The focus is bringing to the forefront this new model of intrusion and mineralisation associated with it, and getting Eagle to the point of we know that we're onto something significant at Eagle. So there's about 4 or 5 lines of exploration that we're following, and bringing those to the next decision point in the first half is really what we're going to be focused on.
Well, you heard it here first. I think that you're using technology in the best possible way. Andrew Munckton from Kin Mining, thanks for joining us at the Virtual Gold Conference today.
Pleasure, Kerry. Thanks for the opportunity.
We'll see you later this afternoon.